The once vibrant clamor of Hollywood had faded into a dull echo for Johnny Depp. At 58, he found himself yearning for stillness, a reprieve from the unrelenting glare of fame. The world saw him as an icon, a symbol of rebellion, talent, and mystery. But behind the layers of stardom lay a man weary of the relentless pace of his life. He craved something more than the hollow applause of strangers. One frosty autumn evening, Johnny arrived at a remote, picturesque town nestled between misty hills. The cobblestone streets and warm lamplight emanated a quiet charm, a far cry from the chaos he left behind. The journey to this town had been unplanned, a spur-of-the-moment decision made during a long drive along the coast. It was as though an invisible force had drawn him there. Dressed in a black overcoat, a scarf loosely draped around his neck, and his signature rings glinting faintly under the light, Johnny wandered aimlessly through the town square. The air carried a faint aroma of roasted chestnuts, mingling with the salty tang of the nearby sea. The town had an air of timelessness, its quaint shops and centuries-old buildings appearing untouched by the modern world. As Johnny wandered, he felt a strange sense of déjà vu. The streets seemed familiar, yet he was certain he had never been there before. It was here, amidst the quiet bustle of the evening, that he stumbled upon a peculiar sign hanging above a weathered wooden door. Destiny awaits. The letters, painted in faded gold, shimmered under the glow of a lantern. Curiosity tugged at him, and before he could second-guess himself, Johnny pushed open the creaky door. The scent of incense enveloped him as he stepped into the dimly lit space. The shop felt like a portal to another world, with its shelves lined with jars of herbs, crystals, and trinkets that seemed to hum with energy. Inside the shop's centerpiece was a circular table draped in deep crimson fabric. At its center sat a woman whose presence was as enigmatic as her surroundings. Her silver hair cascaded down her shoulders, and her eyes gleamed with an unsettling knowingness. "Welcome," she said in a voice that seemed to echo from another realm. "I've been expecting you." Johnny quirked an eyebrow, but said nothing. He was no stranger to theatrics, yet something about her felt genuine. She gestured for him to sit, and despite his hesitation, he obeyed. The woman reached for his hand, her touch cold yet grounding. For a long moment she studied his palm, tracing the lines with her fingers. The room seemed to grow quieter, as though the walls themselves were listening. "A shadow of your past holds the key to your future," she murmured, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Watch for the rose and the raven." Before Johnny could ask what she meant, she handed him an old tarnished coin engraved with the symbols of a rose and a raven. "Keep this close," she instructed, her piercing gaze locking onto his. "It will guide you when the time comes." Johnny turned the coin over in his hand, its weight both literal and metaphorical. The woman's cryptic words lingered in his mind as he left the shop. As Johnny stepped back onto the cobblestone streets, the town seemed different, as though an unseen hand had shifted its fabric. The air felt charged, heavy with possibilities. He noticed a black raven perched on a lamppost, its beady eyes fixed on him. Shaking his head, he dismissed it as coincidence. Further down the street, a woman in a red scarf crossed his path, carrying a single rose. Her face was obscured by the scarf, but something about her struck a chord of familiarity. Johnny's steps faltered as a sense of déjà vu washed over him. He felt as though he'd walked these streets before, met these people in another time. The feeling lingered, gnawing at him as he made his way back to his inn. That night, his dreams were vivid and fragmented. He saw flashes of a woman's face, her eyes filled with both sorrow and longing. The rose and the raven appeared repeatedly, their symbolism eluding him, yet leaving an indelible mark on his subconscious. The next morning, Johnny couldn't shake the events of the previous night. Dreams had haunted him, vivid and fragmented, leaving behind a strange residue of longing and unease. He had seen the woman's face again, her eyes a mirror to emotions he couldn't name, her whispered words lost to the static hum of his subconscious. The raven had loomed large in his visions, its wings casting shadows over unfamiliar landscapes. Even in waking, the image lingered, pressing heavily on his thoughts. As Johnny dressed and prepared for the day, the quiet of the town outside seemed almost conspiratorial, as if it, too, carried the weight of secrets untold. He resolved to explore further, hoping the answers he sought might be hidden in the town's veiled corners. Determined to clear his mind, he ventured out to explore the town further. As he rounded a corner near the town square, something caught his eye, a small, aged photograph lying on the ground. Picking it up, he froze. The image depicted a younger version of himself standing beside a woman. She was holding a rose, and a raven perched on her shoulder. Johnny's heart raced. He had no memory of this photograph, yet there it was. Undeniable proof of a moment he couldn't recall. The photograph set him on edge. Questions swirled in his mind. Who was the woman? Why couldn't he remember this moment? And how had the photograph found its way to him? Determined to uncover the mystery, Johnny began asking the locals about the woman in the photograph. Many recognized her as a gifted artist named Isabella, who had lived in the town decades ago. She had been celebrated for her evocative paintings, but she had vanished under mysterious circumstances. One name came up repeatedly: The Meeting of Shadows, a painting Isabella had created shortly before her disappearance. It was rumored to hold clues about her life and her fate. As Johnny dug deeper, fragmented memories began surfacing. Flashes of laughter, shared conversations, and fleeting glances exchanged with a woman who seemed to see through his soul. It had been during the early days of his career, a time he had buried beneath layers of fame and chaos. He remembered Isabella now. Their connection had been brief but profound, cut short by circumstances neither could control. But why had she disappeared? And what did the rose and raven mean? Johnny's search led him to an abandoned art gallery at the edge of town. The building's once grand facade was now cloaked in ivy and decay. Inside, he found The Meeting of Shadows, a haunting masterpiece that seemed to shift under his gaze. Hidden within the painting's intricate details, Johnny discovered a map engraved with the symbols of the rose and raven. The map pointed to a secluded forest on the outskirts of the town. With the map in hand, Johnny embarked on the journey it outlined. The forest was dense and eerie, the air thick with whispers of the past. The raven appeared frequently, guiding him along overgrown paths and shadow trails. As he ventured deeper, Johnny was forced to confront his fears and regrets. Memories of missed opportunities and unspoken truths surfaced, each step through the forest feeling like a test of his resolve. At last, Johnny arrived at a small weathered cabin hidden amidst the trees. Its facade bore the marks of time, wooden planks warped and cracked, shingles missing from the roof, and moss creeping over its walls. The surrounding trees leaned in as if guarding the secrets within, their branches whispering in the gentle wind. Johnny hesitated at the threshold, the weight of the journey pressing heavily on his chest. His fingers brushed against the coin in his pocket, its cool surface grounding him amidst the swirl of emotions. A strange mix of anticipation and dread coursed through him as he reached for the doorknob, the metal icy under his touch. The door creaked open, revealing an interior steeped in mystery. Dust particles floated in the pale light filtering through the cracked windows, casting an almost ethereal glow over the room. The scent of aged wood and faint traces of oil paint lingered in the air. Journals and sketches lay scattered across a rickety table, their pages curling at the edges as though yearning to share their stories. Each step Johnny took sent the floorboards groaning beneath him, adding to the eerie stillness of the space. His breath caught in his throat as he approached the table. The sketches depicted familiar scenes: the rose, the raven, and even the cobblestone streets of the town he had wandered. But it was the journals, bound in worn leather, that called to him most. Their pages were filled with intricate illustrations and passages of text, the handwriting delicate yet urgent. Each word seemed to pull at a thread deep within him, unraveling emotions he had long buried. A chill ran down his spine, and for a moment he felt as though he were being watched. Turning his gaze to the window, he caught a glimpse of the raven perched on a branch outside, its dark eyes glinting with an almost human intelligence. "What are you trying to tell me?" he whispered, the sound of his own voice startling him in the oppressive quiet of the cabin. The atmosphere thickened, as though the cabin itself were alive, bearing witness to the convergence of past and present. Johnny's heart thudded in his chest, his pulse quickening as he realized he was on the cusp of uncovering something profound, something that could change everything. Inside, he found journals and sketches that revealed Isabella's life and her longing to reconnect with him. She had been drawn to the town by the same signs, the rose and the raven, but her journey had been interrupted. As Johnny pored over the journals, the cabin door creaked open. He turned to see Isabella standing there, older but still radiant, her presence as magnetic as he remembered. Their reunion was bittersweet as they pieced together the story of their intertwined destinies. The coin, the symbols, and the signs had all led to this moment, a chance to reconcile the past and embrace the connection they had both yearned for. As they parted ways, Johnny noticed the coin in his pocket had changed. The symbols of the rose and raven were now joined by a new inscription: Destiny Fulfilled. Leaving the town, Johnny felt a profound sense of peace. The raven watched from a treetop as he disappeared into the horizon, forever changed by the journey that had brought him face to face with his destiny.